With Director of Rugby Steve Diamond at Kingston Park. Dimes, it's been a long pre-season, but we've got our first game this week. Sale Sharks away on Saturday. What is your approach to pre-season games? Is the result important, or do you see this as a bit of a training exercise?
Well, I think the performance is definitely important, and the result second. But let's be honest, a win's a win, isn't it? I know it's a friendly. There's no points on it, but we'll be looking to be highly competitive in it.
Does the complexion of your training week change much? Is it pretty much the same volumes you've been doing, or are you treating this as you would do a kind of Premiership game?
No. It's a training week, and so's next week with the Origin games. So we're training, 5 days a week on it, and then we'll relax that a little bit when we go into games. But lads are in good condition, they're fit, but it's just more knowledge in them at the moment. That's why we're training hard.
In terms of the mechanism for Saturday's game, is it going to be a sort of Premiership style match 23, or will it be a larger squad where guys are getting 20 and 30 minutes?
It'll be larger squad, but 28 and 30. Both sides have agreed that, but it'll be highly competitive. It's, we'll be going out with our full strength 30s and try and get out of the game what we want. We'll be looking at various areas: our set piece, our defence, our clinical finishing, which all areas that we need to improve on from last year.
We're playing at Sale Sharks' former home ground of Hayward Road, somewhere you know very well. What can the lads expect? And I understand there's a bit of a milestone around it as well.
Well, I think it's 25 years since Sharks were named the Sharks from Sale. So there'll be, probably a couple of thousand people there. So it's a nice, compact little stadium. And as you say, it's the ancestral home of them. The two northern clubs, to a very large extent, need to work hand in glove as much as you can to keep rugby thriving in the north, and I think a little partnership like this works well.
Sale have already had one pre-season game over in Connacht. I imagine you've probably had a bit of a watch of that. What do you think we can expect from them and from Saturday in general?
Well, they've got a terrific squad, and I've not seen the game. We've not got hold of that footage. We're just concentrating on ourselves, but we know they'll test us in every area. So we've got our players we've been training.
It's our only pre-season game against another opposition team. I know we've got the True North Origin the week after. What's the sort of thinking behind that, and do you think that's going to help us sort of fresh going into the new season?
Yeah, well, it's the only game against opposition, which is important we get that, and that's why Sale and ourselves have agreed to go pretty much full strength. But the Origin game will be probables versus possibles, even though the Origin is split in the 4 counties. It's going to be a very intense game, that. So looking forward to both weeks, and those who perform best will be putting their hand up to play the week after against Bristol.
Leading into the game, towards the back end of last week, you took the squad over to Cumbria for a couple of nights. Can you just explain a little bit about what the guys were up to and what was the sort of thinking behind that?
Yeah, well, I think there's no real need to go to Portugal or Spain to do this warm weather training when, now, don't get me wrong, we don't get much warm weather here. But I don't see the point of travelling and being in strange beds for a week just to do the same practice you can do here. I'd rather, as we did last week, we went camping, we went boating, canoeing, paddleboarding, drowning nearly. And then we camped for 2 nights at Penrith Rugby Club. They were brilliant hosts. We got local chefs to come in and cook for us, and we were really well behaved. And it was a good 2-3 days of bonding for the squad. We didn't see much sunshine. We walked up some mountains, and some of us are still feeling the worse for wear for that. But no, ask the players, Smithy, really, I think they enjoyed it, and something a bit different.
Nice that there's still a place for that in the professional game anyway. So this week we've got the Premiership launch down at Twickenham as well, where all the clubs send all the coaches and star players. You'll be there, of course. Do you get that sort of sense of excitement that things are really building now towards that first Premiership game against Bristol? Yeah,
and I think, the season kicking off slightly later, towards the end of September, has given us a bit more time to prepare. But the launch is always that sort of moment when you realise you're back in it, and no doubt everybody's had a wonderful pre-season because there's no pressure on winning games or performance, and we're no different. So we've got to make sure that there has been a flick of the switch in work this week, and that'll continue now till we start our first game against the opposition.